Honestly, your girl is reading too much to fit it all in one wrap-up at the end of the month now, so we're splitting them in half. Hi friends, welcome back, or if you're new here, my name's Destiny, and this is my mid-month wrap-up for June. I've already read 10 things so far this month, so I thought I would go ahead and go through those with you real quick. They've mostly been really good reads. It's been a mostly very good reading month for me so far this year. The first thing that I completed was The Sea of Monsters. This was a reread. I was listening to the audiobook, and I really recommend it. The narrator was a lot of fun, but I'm actually buddy rereading this series with Ellen right now, and it's just been really nice to revisit this world. I'm really excited to finish it and move on to the next series. I will say the first couple of books in the Percy series are not perfect to me. I gave it 4 stars, but you know, it's still a raving 4 stars. And also, Tyson is my baby forever. Next, I read The Whites of Their Eyes by Zen. Zen is a pen name for one of my favorite authors, Cole McCade. This was a queer horror anthology of 4 short stories, and I cannot recommend this highly enough. First of all, if you're looking for diverse horror, I really recommend it. Not only does every story feature queer characters, but the first 3 stories in this collection are genuinely super creepy. The 4th book is still horror, but it's almost like a dark fantasy horror. But the first story in this collection honestly freaked me out. It was really good. The whole collection is really good. I highly recommend it, and it's on Kindle Unlimited if you have a subscription. If you don't, I think it's only a couple of dollars on the Kindle store, so treat yourself. Pick it up. Next, I read Stamped: Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. This is Jason Reynolds' YA remix of Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. This was amazing. I actually listened to the audiobook because Jason Reynolds narrates it, and I had heard so many good things about his narrating in his audiobooks that I had to try it. And honestly, I'm pretty sure I have a new favorite audiobook narrator. I was so sad that this wasn't longer because it's a really small book. Like, it's really short. The audiobook is only a few hours, and I was honestly really sad that this wasn't longer because it taught me some really important things that I didn't know. And also, I just really enjoyed its focus on not simply not being racist, but being anti-racist, because that's such an important distinction to make. And there has been a lot of talk about anti-racism lately. I've heard more people talking about it lately than I ever have before. And if you are someone who has not read any literature on this yet, and you're interested in learning about the difference between not racism and anti-racism and what you need to do to be anti-racist, I think that this would be a really great starting point. Next, I read You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson, and this is easily one of my favorite YA contemporary books that I have read in years. It was so good. It's about Liz Leidy, this queer black high school girl who's just found out that she's not going to be able to get the financial aid that she was counting on to go to the college that she wants to go to. So she decides that she's going to run for prom queen, because at her school, the prom queen and prom king both get a $10,000 scholarship each to the college of their choice. Unfortunately, there are a few problems with her plan. One, she's black and queer in small town Indiana, so she doesn't exactly consider herself one of the popular kids. 2, she's a total wallflower, and she doesn't really know how to put herself out there and really be the center of attention comfortably. And 3, she starts to fall for another girl who's also running for prom queen. It's so lighthearted, and like, you know that there's a happy ending coming, and it takes these really fun rom-com tropes and really puts a fresh spin on them. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. At the end of the year, I fully expect this to make it into my top books of 2020. Next, another book that is a new favorite, Take a Hint, Dani Brown by Talia Hibbert. I always love Talia Hibbert's books, so I knew that I was going to love this too, and she did not let me down. Take a Hint, Dani Brown follows Dani Brown, the younger sister of Chloe Brown, the main character of Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I will say, if you have not read Get a Life, Chloe Brown, you could read this one first. However, please read them both because they're both so good. She's a college teacher who, through a weird turn of events, basically, people on social media have decided that she is dating the security guard at the college, Zafir Ansari, who is a former rugby player who's trying to get his new charity off the ground. And so they kind of decide that if they run with this fake dating thing that's made them so popular on social media, maybe it'll help him really get his charity going. So they decide that they're gonna fake date, and of course it turns into more, and it is so sweet. It's so funny. Like, it's got all these great rom-com elements, but it also has these really solid, like, heavier underlying themes, such as the fact that Zafir has serious anxiety after losing 2 of his family members in a terrible car crash years earlier, and so he's very anxious. He deals with a lot of panic attacks, and he really still hasn't dealt with his grief yet either. There's also the fact that Dani has a lot of trust issues based on a previous really toxic, bad romantic relationship that ended very poorly. And so, you know, it's not only these two finding each other, but it's also them kind of finding themselves and learning to work through their previous traumas. And if you're not already sold, like all of Talia's books, it's so beautifully diverse and so well done. Dani is fat, black, bisexual, and a witch. Yes, you heard that right. We got a romance with a witch as a main character. Yeah, what up? And Zafir Ansari, the hero, is Pakistani and Muslim. Pretty much all of the primary characters are characters of color. They're all either black or Pakistani. And like I said, there is the anxiety representation as well as the representation of Danny's trust issues and almost like a slight case of PTSD from her previous relationship. It's so good. Just read it. Moving on, I also read The Tea Dragon Tapestry by Katie O'Neill. This is the third book in the Tea Dragon series, and I'm so sad that the series has come to an end because I really loved these. Sadly, this was not my favorite of the series so far. I gave the first two 5 stars each. I only gave this one 4 stars, but it was still really beautiful, really sweet, and if you like the Tea Dragon books, you absolutely need to pick it up. Next, we have another reread. I also reread The Titan's Curse. This one actually wasn't as good as I remembered it being. I thought I remembered this being one of my favorites in the series, and then as soon as Artemis and her hunters were introduced, I remembered why it's not, because I really don't like some of the characters in this book very much. That said, I really like the adventure that they go on in this one, and I kind of like that this one is where we start to see a little bit more heaviness in the series. So I'm still really glad that I reread it, but I'm more excited to reread the 4th and 5th books. I had originally given it 4 stars when I first read it a couple of years ago, and I felt like it was fair to leave it there. Next, I read Just Like That by Cole McCade. This is his new upcoming romance. This is an age gap romance between a guy who's just got hired on as a TA and the teacher that he's been assigned to, who happens to be the teacher that he had a crush on when he was at that high school. I know, like, put the pitchforks down, put them down, it's okay. This is a trope that a lot of people are not comfortable with. A lot of people are really uncomfortable with age gap romances. It's not an obscene age gap. I don't remember how old Fox is, but I want to say he's in his mid to late 30s and Summer is in his mid 20s. So obviously it is a pretty sizable gap, but it's not like Summer is like 18 or 19.
Hi, Editing Destiny here. I forgot to add in, it's made abundantly clear that there was never anything between them while Summer was a student, to the degree that Fox didn't even know that Summer had a crush on him when he was a student. So if you have any concerns about that, that's not an issue at all.
Anyways, when Summer went to this boarding school as a teenager, he was bullied a lot, and so when he graduated, he totally left town for like almost 10 years. But now his mother is getting older and she's a little bit sickly, so he's decided to move back, and the only position available is becoming a TA at the boarding school. That teacher is Fox Asaya, who is known for being just this stone cold, stoic, grumpy guy that doesn't like anybody and is kind of mean and really rough around the edges. So naturally, on the other side of the dichotomy, Summer is very sweet and bubbly and soft, and so if you like that like really sweet character with a really grumpy character pairing, you will definitely like this. But very early on in the story, we find out that Fox kind of has this hidden past and that he actually lost his spouse many years ago, and Summer had never known that, and so it's kind of turned Fox into this very jaded person who doesn't think that he's ever going to be happy again. So Summer decides that he wants to try to breach those walls and connect with Fox and, you know, kind of teach him that he can be happy again and he can seek love again. I will say, this is not a fluffy romance at all. There's a lot of angst, there's a lot of grief. Fox deals with so much depression and has a lot of thought processes that are really tough to read at times because they're so heavy and sad. On top of that, Summer has a severe anxiety disorder and struggles a lot with panic attacks. So, you know, just be aware that those are a big part of this book when you go into it. That said, it's a really swoony, sweet, steamy romance, and I loved it so much. And then I read The Order of the Pure Moon Reflected in Water by Zen Cho. This is a new fantasy novella about a group of bandits. They're kind of on this mission where they're smuggling goods to go sell, when through kind of a chaotic turn of events, a monk joins their group. And she has no idea what the life of a bandit is like. She has no idea if she can trust them. They don't know if they can trust her. And it's really just a novella purely based on characters. I actually felt a little bit misled because the synopsis made it sound like it was going to be very action-packed, and instead it's very slow-moving for the first half. It's kind of a journey story. There's a lot of traveling and a lot of small talks and small quiet moments. However, once I hit about the halfway point, the action really picked up and I was much more intrigued by it. I'll be honest, I almost DNF'd this at about the 40% mark because I just really wasn't enjoying the story and I didn't really care about any of the characters. I'm so glad that I stuck it out though, because the second half of the book was really, really good and I really enjoyed the second half. It turns into this really beautiful conversation about gender and about finding yourself and learning how to be who you want to be now, while also kind of coming to terms with who you were in your past. It's set in a world where queerness is very casually accepted. It's really not a big deal at all. And while I do want to give a trigger warning for misgendering, that does happen a few times, there is a trans character in the story who I loved very much, and any of the misgendering that occurs is basically an accident and is very quickly addressed and moved on from. I don't really know what rating I'm giving this at this point. I want to say like a 3.5, but I'm probably going to sit on that for a couple of days and really think on it more. And then the last thing that I read was a disaster. And that was What Unbreakable Looks Like by Kate McLaughlin. If you follow me on Twitter, you've probably already seen the debacle that ensued from this. Basically, I was talking one-on-one with a friend on Twitter, and I mentioned being uncomfortable with something in this book. I didn't tag the author. The author replied to my tweet. I guess she had searched for the title of the book and found my tweet. Basically disagreed with me, made me feel like my opinion was kind of invalidated. It wasn't a great turn of events. But even if that hadn't happened, I really was not enjoying this at all. I didn't care for the writing. I thought it was clunky. I thought the dialogue was very stilted. The characters felt very flat to me, unfortunately. There's really just no emotional depth to the main character. This is a book about a girl who's been rescued from sex trafficking, and that happens right in the beginning of the book, but she really has no emotional connection to anything that's happened. Like, she's just kind of floating through, and she doesn't really act like she cares about anything that's happened or anybody who's dealing with her. All she really cares about is looking tough. And that's where my real problem with this book came in, because it is a white main character written by a white author. I've also seen some other reviews bringing up very important other points about how race was handled in this, but the part that immediately made me uncomfortable, literally from like the first couple of pages and just got worse and worse, was the fact that this main character uses AAVE, and it's done in a borderline mocking kind of way. It feels like a caricature. But what made it even worse is that she only does it when she's trying to sound like tough and like she's big and bad. Whenever she's talking to like an adult or somebody that she respects, she immediately drops it. And so it's almost like there's kind of like a respectability thing going on there. It made me really uncomfortable, and I've talked to a few other people who have read this who also were like, yeah, this made me super uncomfortable. Obviously, as a white person, I don't really have much that I can say about the usage of AAVE by a white author. And so I would be really interested in seeing more reviews come out, particularly from Black readers who can kind of speak more to how it feels to see a white author use AAVE in this manner. All I can say is that I know when something feels wrong in my gut, and this just felt really wrong and I really didn't appreciate it. And then between that and the altercation on Twitter, I will not be recommending this book at all. I gave it 1 star. I was really disappointed in it. This could have been so important and so powerful, and instead it's probably the worst thing I've read all year. Okay, and that was it. That's everything that I've read so far this month. As far as anything else that I've been doing this month, it's mostly been a lot of playing Animal Crossing. We did just order an Xbox One, so that's going to be here in the next couple of days. I mean, I guess it'll probably be here by the time this video comes up, so I'm hoping to do some Xbox gaming. I haven't played any Xbox titles in a very, very long time. I had a 360 like 10 years ago. But yeah, I've mostly just been playing a lot of Animal Crossing. I've been rewatching a lot of horror movies. I just rewatched Event Horizon a couple of nights ago, and it was even better than I remembered it. I watched 365 Days, which, if you're in the book community, you've probably seen people talking about it. It's an adaptation of a Polish romance book. It's on Netflix. And, you know, I don't really know what I watched. It was beautifully shot. The cinematography was gorgeous. That's about it. That's about all I have to say about it. Probably about to start watching Hannibal, obviously the TV show. I keep seeing people talk about it on Twitter. I think Rhiannon is watching it right now and talking about it a lot, and it's making me really hyped for it, so I think I might start that after I get done filming this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's been my month so far. Obviously, I will be back in 2 weeks with the wrap up for the second half of the month, but I hope you enjoyed this. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you've read so far this month and how it was, how your month's going, what you've been doing if you're not reading or besides reading. You just come talk to me. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you're having a beautiful day, and I'll see you in another video soon. Bye!